Since we don't have an especially large group, if everyone just wants to like go around and introduce themselves, so name, pronouns, what university you're from, and then for a fun little icebreaker question, if you were a type of sea creature, what type of sea creature would you want to be?
Who wants to start?
Yeah, I can start again. So my name is Philip. I am a first-year master's student at University of Florida. Um, Big fan of CCL and Stephanie and the higher ed action team. And if I was to say a sea creature, definitely one that doesn't get eaten. Maybe like, I think that's what I think of. I think of just everything gets eaten by something bigger than it. So maybe like what about like a coral reef? Like a piece of coral. All right, I'll pass it to Mabel.
Hi everyone, I'm Mabel. I am I am the Third Coast Fellow for CCL, and I am actually about to do a lobby day meeting tomorrow with Senator John Cornyn in his on a Zoom meeting in the office of John Cornyn. And I go to Concordia University, and my major is environmental science and conservation with a minor in comm. And I go by she, her. Thank you. Serena, have you spoken already?
No, I haven't. Hi, I'm Serena. I'm a junior at Michigan State. And if I were a sea creature, that is a really good question. I haven't really thought about this, but probably like I know like I've looked in Petco before in the like little fish tanks. I don't know how many of those are naturally occurring in the ocean, but I think the black angelfish are super pretty. They have a really nice like matte color. And I want to own some someday. So yeah. I'll pass it to Stanley.
I'm Stanley. I'm currently working at Babson College, which feels so weird to say. Like I feel like I'm getting white hair or I'm like balding already. Um if I were a sea creature, I would be a tuna because tuna swim very fast. But kind of like touching on Philip's point, I would be so tasty. I feel like I would start eating myself sometimes. And then I'm gonna pass it to Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily. I use she, her pronouns, and I go to the College of William and Mary in Virginia. And if I were a sea creature, I feel like I hear the most about octopuses, and I just admire octopuses so much. And yeah, they're super versatile. So I'd be an octopus. And I'll pass it to Catherine.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm a sophomore at Bowdoin College. She, her, studying psychology and earth and oceanographic science, which I feel like is making me overthink this question, but I'm gonna go with penguin. I don't know if that's really a sea creature, but I think they're cool and it would be fun to like slide around on the ice and swim. And I'll popcorn Ellen.
Hi, I'm Ellen. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior at NYU, and I also, Emily, when you said you'd be an octopus, I had a reaction because that was totally that was like the animal that I thought because they are just super cool. Read a really good book on not on them, but kind of like Metazoa by Peter Godfrey Smith, which is such a good book. Highly recommend to anyone interested. And I think Caitlin is the last one who wasn't.
Yeah, I think so. Hey, I'm Caitlin. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And I have to hop up at 8:30, but I thought I would, come on the call and try to get what I could out of this and see everyone. I was gonna say cuttlefish, which is basically octopus, but I think I just watched like a lot of nature documentaries featuring cuttlefish back in like 2010. So that's like stuck in my brain. I think they're neat and I like the color changing and camouflage. Yeah, I think I'm the last one. So
I'll introduce myself then. My name is Sam. I use they, she pronouns. I go to Bryn Mawr College. And if I were a sea creature, I would be like a pufferfish, I think. Stephanie, do you want to do the recap?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Sam. So we like to include a little bit of a recap of what went on last month in the higher ed team. I think most of y'all were probably on that call, but we had Peterson join us and give all of this great advice about effective climate storytelling. If you were not able to make that call, I highly recommend going and checking out the recording. I'll grab that link and put it in the chat. But what I really wanted to focus on as we're kind of doing this retrospective and also leading into Sam's great facilitation of our conversation about like what it takes to be effective when lobbying a congressional office based on their insider experience. Also wanted to mostly focus on the conference over the weekend. And first of all, I'll give a super special shout out to both Joseph Cerniglia from UMich, who spoke on the group leader panel and did an amazing job. And I think a lot of people really resonated with that and enjoyed hearing what he's learned. And also Emily, who did a great job in the social media session. Thank you so much for sharing. So I guess, Emily, do you want to share any of your reflections from the conference?
It was a lot of fun, and it amazes me that how much work gets put in to make it all cohesive for one day of packedness. It was a lot of fun.
Anybody else get to attend over the weekend and want to share some of their like highlights or favorite parts?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Van Jones. I've only seen like 2 things that he's done, but I haven't heard that many people who are more articulate than him. And just the fact that he wasn't like reading anything, he was just kind of speaking. And I found what he said about, he was talking about how people from different sides use different words. And you shouldn't, if people are going from 2 different sides, are going to do the same thing, you shouldn't fight over the words. And I found that to really be a powerful message.
Philip, have you looked in the mirror?
Oh, the romance is so strong. Yeah, Emily.
Van Jones said some things that were very surprising to me. I wonder if anyone else felt those feelings of kind of some surprise over. Well, I think they were all really good things, but I think especially the points about that we need to, like, Congress people will listen to people who say we have this many votes or we have, these things, and it was kind of interesting because I feel like that is not always what CCL, thought process, or that's not what we strongly say. But I'm curious if anyone else had similar thoughts when he was saying stuff like that.
I just want to give a shout out to the first day getting to hang out with Stephanie Munguia in like the breakout session where it was just like 80 people and like 5 of us talked. But we gotta know like shoot, what was that guy's name again? Kiberu from Uganda, who was really cool.
Yeah, that was a cool group of people. Thanks for coming, and to the people who were brave enough to speak up. I know it's a little weird to have like a chat room with 80 people in it, and it's mostly just people sitting back and listening, but it's sort of it's a tradition. It's a CCL tradition, and not everybody wants to go dance or play trivia. But Yeah, it was a lot of fun to host that kickoff session. So thank you to all of you for participating in the conference in some way or another. And if you didn't get to, the recordings are pretty much all up already. We're still waiting to hear back from Van Jones's people on whether or not we're allowed to post his recording, but hopefully we will be able to. And that should be up really soon. So with that, I will turn it back over. Oh, actually, maybe we'll have Pratch introduce herself if she would like to. And Pratch, the connection before content question today is, if you were a type of sea creature, what type of sea creature would you like to be?
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Pratch. I live in Georgia. I'm about to change my major. I'm going to do media entrepreneurship. I was trying to do psychology, but so I'm excited for that. And my creature would be a turtle. I think I'd be a sea turtle. I like sea turtles. I have them in my, like, on my shower curtain. I just think they're very pleasant creatures.
Definitely approve. Thank you, Pratch, for like jumping right in. I'll turn it back to Sam to lead us into the next part of the conversation tonight.
Okay, so I previously worked in or interned in a congressional office in Oregon, and basically one of the things that I learned there is that a lot of people misunderstand how it actually works when you like make a phone call or send an email to a congressional office. And a lot of campaigns would be a lot more effective if people understood like how it's actually like managed from the inside. So I just wanted to like walk through some like basics of how it's like received on the side of the congressional office and how people can make their own campaigns more effective, and then do some brainstorming as to some ways to get active on college campuses or post-college campuses, and do more effective campaigns. So starting off with phone calls. And feel free, if anyone has any questions, to just jump in with questions. I'm going to be talking for probably like 5 or 10 minutes, so just jump in with any questions. Phone calls, they're tracked for a few things: name, zip code, issue, and stance. Literally nothing else. Nothing else you say is tracked on the phone call. You can give a whole 10-minute spiel about why you care about an issue. None of that is written down. All they write down is the stance, the issue, your zip code, your name, and that's it. Nothing else. So the 10 minutes that you spend on the phone, that is purely for the purpose of sucking time. There is a purpose to sucking the time, and I will talk about that later. But just know that if you're giving more than that information, it is for the sole purpose of taking time. And if you don't give that information, they physically cannot log your call. So if you don't give your zip code, they cannot log your call whatsoever. That means if you leave a voicemail after hours and you don't give your zip code or you don't give your name, your call gets discarded. So it does not get tracked in the system whatsoever. Yeah, basically the goal of this is they're trying to get a numeric and regional sense of like constituents' political views. So they're not really trying to know why you care about an issue. They're not trying to get like justifications one way or another or arguments. They just want to know who cares about what and where the people care about things. So that's all they're really looking for. Generally, there's 1 to 2 people answering phone calls at any given point in time. This is interns almost exclusively, or maybe like front of office staff if the phone lines are overwhelmed. Calls are typically answered 9 to 5, unless the phone lines are full, in which case they will go to voicemail. And all calls go to the same place. This is important. This means that calls that are about like constituent concerns, like I need help paying some bills, or I have an issue getting a passport, go to the same place as I would like to log an opinion. So if you clog a phone line, it means that no other work can get done, like at all. So if you manage to keep someone on the phone for 40 minutes, literally nothing can get done for 40 minutes because there's probably 1 or 2 interns on that phone line and nothing else can go through. So it's voicemails will be logged if possible, but most end up getting just discarded because they don't have the necessary info. And like realistically, most people don't know how to like the necessary information to put into a phone call. So strategies given this, there are 2 strategies. The first strategy is you want to alter numbers. If you're doing a mass phone campaign where you have like 40 people, and you're trying to just really alter the numbers, or like 400 people, even better, you can just all send a voicemail. There's no need to get someone on the line. You just say, here's my name, here's my zip code, here's the issue, here's the stance, hang up the phone. That's it. Really quick. It would take like less than a minute to make the phone call. No need to give it like why you have the opinion, just bare minimum info. It gets logged. That is like the most efficient way to do that. Don't need to do it during office hours. Second, if you clog the phone lines, this is going to get people's attention really, really quickly. If 8 people call simultaneously, that means 1 call is going to go through, but 7 calls are just going to get sent to voicemail. If 8 people call back to back, that means the phone lines are clogged for 40 minutes. And that means that a supervisor is definitely getting called to help with the phone lines. And a supervisor getting called means someone higher up is going to know about this issue really, really quickly after you start this phone campaign. So there's strategy to this. The more you can clog the phone lines, the quicker you're going to get the attention of people who are like not interns. Okay, emails vetted for the same thing. The name, zip code, issue, stance. The only other thing is they can count them. So if you send a mass email, if you have 40 people send the exact same email template, they will just look for that same email template and say this appeared 40 times. So they won't read all 40 emails. They'll read 1 email and then they'll count it 40 times and delete all 40 after they count it. So you're not really clogging. It's not really possible to like clog someone's inbox. They're just going to search it and then log it a bunch of times. Emails go to staff, not interns, because they often contain sensitive information. This is typically, that's how it worked in my office. It might not work like that in all offices. They're quick to log and they can be counted in bulk. So same strategies, you can go for the numbers, you can just send a templated email, or you can have everyone send an individualized email. And at this point, you might as well just call them because everyone's writing in their own email. So you might as well just call and clog the phone lines. Overall, email's not the best way to go about doing this. And then finally, letters. Letters are really interesting. Letters have to be individually scanned to prevent terrorist attacks. So this means that every single letter has to go through a scanner for about 30 seconds. So if you send like 30 letters, that's going to take a long time for them to go through. It's not just them opening the letter, it's them scanning a letter, waiting by the scanner, and then opening the letter. If you're trying to like annoy your congressman into listening to you, this is a great way to do that, because if you send 80 letters, they're going to be at that scanner for an absurd amount of time. Like an absurd amount of time. I have seen it. It is the bane of our existence is letters. So it's a great way to annoy people into like listening to you. The only disadvantage is that if you send like 80 identical envelopes, they might, I haven't seen this happen, but I would guess that they might just look at one of them or a few of them and assume that all of them are the same and not actually open all of them to avoid standing at the scanner for an hour. So I haven't actually seen that happen, but that would be my guess as to what would happen. So you might want to like switch up the envelopes a little bit, and then you'll really be time consuming. So quick anecdote, faxes. This strategy was used with fax machines, and the fax machines at the senator's office totally broke down. We did not answer a single fax the time I worked there because they figured out that if they clogged the fax machine, no work could get done. So people were sending us important faxes, people were sending us unimportant faxes, none of them got read because we were getting thousands of unimportant faxes per day to the point where no one could sort through them. Basically, you can clog it to the point where it becomes impossible to do work, and then they have to listen to you. That is the point of this. Yeah, that is the point of this. So like overall, if your goal is to annoy your representatives or senator into listening to you, go with letters or go with calling. If you're going to go with letters, switch up the envelopes. If you're going to go with calling, do like a segmented calling so that you take up the most time. And include a request to meet with a staff member. I assure you, if you take up an hour of phone time, or if you take up 80 envelopes worth of time, and you include a request to meet with a staff member, you will most likely meet with a staff member. And once you meet with a staff member once, it becomes a lot easier to meet with a staff member again. So include a request to meet with a staff member within your call campaign or letter campaign. If you're trying to just go for a numbers game, just send an email, and then they'll just tally it and add it to the system. It's easier for everyone. It'll be quicker for them, quicker for you. Just send an email. And no matter what, include your name, your zip code, your issue, and your stance. All the other info only include if you're trying to use up time. That's basically the spiel. That's like how it works inside a congressional office. Most people like don't realize what little info they actually care about, or like what they don't care about. And I just remember when I was interning there thinking like how much more effective certain campaigns could be if they like knew this info. So like I'm glad that I got to share this.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Sam. I'm sure people have questions. So yeah, Cratch was like ready to go.
Yeah, I was definitely ready to go. Okay. Wait, what one is actually no, I'll ask the more like specific personal question at the end, but one is like I mentioned in the chat, in our CCL call campaigns, we never actually said like our zip code. So I'm just so curious about that. Like, are you like is that like something that is like across all congressional offices, like that like you need a zip code? I'm not sure what we left. I think we would like leave our email or like our home address or something. But if
you
someone
leave
else
your
can jump in
address
on
or
that.
fill in zip code, they will fill in your zip code if you leave your home
Okay.
address. So they will fill in, but they need your zip code. You don't need to give the full address. They just need the zip code.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that I interned for a different congressional office, and a lot of it was the same, but we actually needed the full address to log it. And we had a system with all the like contacts. So if you'd already like called us and given us your phone number, email, full address, name, and we had you in the system, then we could maybe find you with your name if we could figure out the spelling or just like a little bit of information. But to guarantee that you would get your thing would get logged, you would have to give your name and full address. So yeah, it's weird that it's so different between Congress offices, but I guess you just got to err on the side of giving too much contact information.
Yeah, Emily, then Philip.
I heard one time that Congress people are more receptive to CCLers. Do you know if that, like, do they track at all what organization people are from, or no?
Not at the congressional office I worked at. They did not track that whatsoever. They like it was literally just like a computer, like it was just a program that you like fill in the information and then press submit. Like there's not, you can maybe add a comment, but no one's going to read the comments.
Even if you send like a really heartfelt message, does that do anything?
In my experience, probably not. Like if you send a personal message, like if you've met with someone in Congress and then you like send a letter afterwards, like that will probably be well received. But if you send a really heartfelt message that's about like a political viewpoint, it's probably just going to get logged in the same way that anything else gets logged.
Do supervisors have to care more, Sam? I know, Philip, you had your hand up, so I'm sorry for cutting in, but I'm curious, like building off of Emily's question, like if you clog the phone line and like, say you host a calling party with your campus chapter and you clog the phone line and you finally get elevated to a supervisor and like somebody in your calling party room is like talking to a supervisor. Does it help if that person like says something more heartfelt than just a form message?
So likely the supervisor that you're going to get like referred to is going to be a front of office staff. It's not likely going to be like a political person. So your goal is going to be to get a meeting with with someone who is more politically oriented within the congressional office. So yes-ish. If you say the right things on that call and you request a meeting with a heartfelt message, that might be like impactful. And if you say a really heartfelt message 8 times to an intern, the intern will relay that to a supervisor, likely. I remember we would have debriefs with our supervisors like every week, and we would get asked what were the common themes. And so if I got the same message 8 times in a day, that would definitely come up in that conversation.
Yeah, Philip.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So first, I just want to say thank you. I really found this really interesting. What's the number of each type of message that members of Congress typically get per day?
It was random. It was so random. Some days the phone lines would be empty, other days they would be overflowing. Some days they would be like constituent calls for help, other days they would be purely political. It was so random.
And so this is kind of going into some other things. First, what are some like examples of campaigns that you thought did something that you thought could have been improved, and how could it have been improved? And then applying that to CCL, how do you see these tactics being used by like a CCL chapter, for example?
Yeah, so like one of them was, I remember there was this phone campaign that I don't remember what organization did it, but there was an organization that did a phone campaign, and we got like 10 voicemails overnight. And literally all I had to do was listen to one voicemail, log the phone call, listen to the first 5 seconds of the next voicemail, hear that it was the same as the first voicemail, and then count it as 2 voicemails, and then do the same for the next like 10. And so I spent maybe like 5 minutes logging 10 voicemails. And whereas it should have taken, if they did that during daytime in like a sequenced order, that would have effectively shut down the phone lines for like a solid 30 minutes and really made my day a lot more inconvenient as an intern. So like that could have been implemented a lot better. And like if you're doing a phone campaign, I would definitely think strategically about, are you trying to just go for the numbers and get as many phone calls in as possible via voicemail, or are you trying to really get a meeting or get like a higher level of attention to an issue beyond just numbers, and think strategically about how many people you have. If you have 10 people who are able to make a phone call, that's probably not enough to skew any numbers. But if you have 100 people, that's enough to skew numbers. So you might want to like think about which option's best. Same with emails. We had people who would send 100 emails, but they'd all look exactly the same, and I would just search for the email and then count how many of them there were, and then type in count 100. And it was like, at this point, like this is like not really making much of a difference, even though you're sending a lot of emails. Like you're spending more time on this than we are, and that's probably a bad sign. So yeah.
So I have a follow-up question for that.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's cool is that there's so many tools. Like you could have like a Google Calendar and have people like block in like when every single person calls their member of Congress, which I think would be really cool. And I can see how that would get a lot of attention. But does that like, would people get angry by that? Would that like turn people off doing that? Like if we had 100 people doing that like every single day, and we were like all really respectful, but we were totally like clogging the phone lines for 10 days in a row. Would people get angry? Would that affect our image?
That would definitely be something to discuss with your like state action team before you do it. If you're gonna like do a long-term phone campaign, it could definitely affect the image. Like, because yes, it would definitely frustrate staff. But like in an effective way, if that makes sense. Like the point is kind of to frustrate staff to the point where they have to listen to you. That's kind of the intention. So I would discuss it with like your state action team before you implement it, just to get like an okay. But yeah, no, it would definitely frustrate them in a effective way.
Well, thank you, Sam.
Hey Sam, I'm also going to echo everyone else's statements in that I really appreciated the talk that you gave. But also, I think I might have zoned out a little. And I don't know if you covered this, but could you speak a little as to like how significantly like different campaigns weigh the counts of calls and letters?
Yeah, so like overall, if you're trying to skew numbers, go with email, because you can literally just have people fill out like a Google form and have it automatically send an email. Like CCL has templates on the website to automatically send out emails. So go with email if you're trying to skew numbers. If you're trying to get attention to an issue, go with letters or call campaigns, because those are going to clog the time of the people who actually intern or work in offices. And call campaigns, I have seen be effective. I've seen people get meetings via call campaigns. Letter campaigns, I have not seen those be effective, but that's mostly because people don't think to use them. Letters are not really used that much anymore. And so it was like pretty once in a blue moon that we would get a letter. And every time we would get a letter, we would be really annoyed about it, which is probably a sign that it is a good tool.
Could I rephrase my question? So what I was trying to ask is like how much does it like change, or like how much does it matter to the actions of our representatives when they look at like, oh, there's like 10 phone calls or there's like 20 emails?
I mean, I don't have a good sense of that. Like 10 or 20, probably not that much. To be honest, because they're getting like hundreds or thousands of calls. So 10 or 20, I remember when like hot button issues were coming up, we would be getting rushes of calls. And so even if there was like a specific organization that was doing a phone campaign and we were getting like 10 from that organization, it wouldn't make a dent into the overall amount of calls that we got about a specific issue. But when we got a particular issue on repeat for an entire day, that would definitely bring attention to it.
Could I just ask a second follow-up? So like let's say we call a representative and we make it known that like we're the organization that calls in the most on this issue, right? And this is our view. Like how much would that sway their opinion?
Sway their opinion. I'm not sure, to be honest. What it would do is at least get you a meeting with someone who you could more easily have a conversation with. Like, the goal is, realistically, you're probably not going to sway a representative's or a senator's opinion via phone call or text campaign. Like, they're not going to change their mind on a political issue because they're getting a phone call from an organization. What they are maybe going to do is meet with you and then see all of the information that you have in folders and on issues and have a deeper conversation with you, and then maybe change their opinion
Okay.
once you met with the specific person. So yeah.
Thank you, Sam.
Emily?
I'm this is kind of a silly question, but do you ever get AI contact? Like, do you get AI phone calls or letters or emails? Like, do people try to skew numbers that way or jam phones that way?
That's what happened to the fax machine. Yeah, the poor fax machine. AI got to it. So yeah.
Do you think that's gonna start happening to phone calls and emails too?
Probably.
That's crazy. Okay. I also had another question. In terms of our strategy in CCL, or especially like higher ed or pushing for a carbon fee and dividend, do you think, are we trying to skew, what would be the best strategy? Like to work on skewing the numbers, or to jam the phones, or what is the best balance? Like what would be the best strategy for us youth and CCL?
Depends on how many people you have. If you're at a conference, probably numbers. If you're in a small group of people or like at a club, probably jam the phone lines.
Okay, thank you. Also wanted to share that this is so interesting, and I also really appreciate you sharing all this info, Sam.
I'm also really curious about Catherine's experience, because it sounds like from the chat that there's some different like operational stuff between offices too. So Catherine, do you want to jump in and talk about a little bit about like what you put in the chat?
Oh, thanks, Sam. No, I think it was super cool to hear your experience because part of why I wanted to intern in an office was to learn this, but then obviously all offices are different, so it didn't like it's super interesting to hear like how another office did it, because like I didn't even intern for my home congressman, so I still don't know how their office works. But yeah, sorry, I was just trying to say the things that were like different so we could know. But yeah, I guess for constituent opinions, a thing that made a big impact, like they all got counted the same way, kind of what I was talking about in the chat, but just a way that you could have a little additional impact is if we got a lot of calls about the same thing in a particular day, or voicemails, it would kind of get talked about like in the office. Like some of the higher level staff would like walk by and be like, what are the voicemails about today? And then like I would tell them. It was just like casual interactions like that where the message would get across if like a lot of the calls were about the same thing. So yeah.
I have a comment. I think that, well, we're all finding this really interesting. I think it would be really cool if you guys made like a 30-second video on this. I would show it like in a lot of presentations that I do. Because I think that the like showing that these coordinated things have some influence is very valuable in motivating people to do these things.
That's a great suggestion, Philip. Emily, I saw your hand was like going up and then going back down. I just want to create space if you did want to like add an extra comment or question.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. I had the thought that as the CFD movement is in its early stages and our call to action is write Congress, it just made me think, like, what if our call to action was call Congress? But I know that our long-term vision is to get that mass of people. So we are working on doing the numbers game in the long run. So it probably makes the most sense to keep it as write Congress.
Another thing to consider too is like there's the practical side of like what's happening in the legislative office, and then there's also the practical side of like what are volunteers going to feel comfortable doing right off the bat, right? So like CFD's strategy is largely reaching people who have never taken any action like that. Yeah, I don't think Facts Congress is gonna work. But given that you're reaching a lot of people who are like new to advocacy, like asking them to call Congress might be like a new sort of scary step. And also it requires them to remember, like Sam said, all of those things that they need to include in their conversation or in their voicemail. Whereas if you just continue to use the writing tool, like that seems really easy for a first-time advocate. And then like the way that CFD and CCL collaborate is that obviously like as folks engage with CFD and get more involved with CCL, CCL can kind of ramp up the ask. And that's where we get somebody from like writing Congress all the way to actually meeting with their member of Congress. So it's like that pathway as well. So I think it does make sense. What you're doing with the CFD movement makes sense. Okay, that actually seems like a really perfect segue to hear some updates from the CFD movement. But first, I want to say just, yes, a million thanks, Sam. That was super interesting. And I'll make sure that some of our other CCL staff get to hear this recording and sort of hear your insights from your time on the Hill. I also want to take a really quick screenshot of everybody. So if you can come on camera, if you feel comfortable. I'd love to take our monthly call. Yeah, get your hair in order, get all your affairs in order. Oh, and we actually have somebody who just entered the waiting room. So maybe Ashrith will be in this picture too. All right, let me get my screen grab set up. Hey, Ashrith. We were just taking a group photo if you want to come on camera, but totally okay if not. Perfect. Okay. All right. Everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Yes, looks good. Love it. Okay. So Emily, over to you for your CFD update.
Awesome. So for some updates at the national level, this was shared at the last meeting at the strategy meeting, but we are changing the link of the sign from bit.ly/writecongress here to cclusa.org/writecongress. And this is so that we can have more control over the link. And now we're able to redirect it and not pay an $8 subscription to Bitly to redirect it. But the Bitly link will still work and direct to the carbon fee and dividend tool. And the link now goes, this link used to go to CCL's website, but now it directs to the carbon fee and dividend movement's website. And we have the tool to write Congress on our website. So it should be easier if a student goes to the if they go to the website link and then they can easily from that website on their phone just like figure out how to join the CFD movement from that page. And there's a short link for CFD signs. So if you want to like mass print signs, then the short link is cclusa.org/CFD sign, and that links to this sign. But also, I think this is kind of a national strategy question, but the idea of QR codes has been something that we've been thinking about for quite some time. And I was just wondering, like playing around with designs, do you guys have any thoughts on, because we do have the simplicity of the sign without the QR code, and it's really easily hand replicable. But there's also, like, for example, this is just an idea of a QR code on the sign, and I wonder if this would be the space to, or if maybe the space would be later to open up that kind of conversation, or in the Slack. But Stanley, do you have an initial thought on that?
Yeah, I think that part of the charm of the movement is like things are handwritten, so it's like you're personally engaged in the message that you're spreading. I feel like having it be like moved to QR codes will require everything to be printed, which kind of like removes you from like the raw, like the humanness of it.
Yeah, that's definitely legit, and I feel like that's probably the reason that we haven't made that leap yet. But yeah, Philip. Also, if it's better, Stephanie, are we gonna like break out? I know it's kind of reaching the end of the meeting, so I'm wondering if this is a good place for this conversation. Or
Yeah, so I just created a poll for you so that you can really easily get a very quick like yes, no pulse check on this room. But I do also, because we are kind of low on time, we're probably not going to get to like deeper breakout conversations in the main room like before the top of the hour. I'm just going to launch that poll now so that people can go ahead and like give their opinion really quickly. But we are definitely happy to stay on the line after, so I think we'll probably do breakout rooms after that, and if anybody wants to like go deeper into this conversation after 9 Eastern, they definitely can.
awesome, thank you for creating that, Stephanie.
Yeah, no problem. Looks like 5 people have voted so far, so we're just going to give people some more time, but you can go ahead and keep on going with your update, Emily.
Okay. All right, and I just wanted to share again that if you want to be involved in helping strategize the movement at a national level, we so appreciate and welcome that help. And we share ideas in the CFD National Strategy chat on Slack, and feel free to include ideas there anytime. And please take pictures and videos of all the work that you are doing. We would love to amplify it on our social media. And Philip, I was wondering did you want to give a update about the Volo Foundation meeting? I feel like that might be a cool national movement update to share.
So there's this foundation that has money, and they're really engaged in climate advocacy, funding things with climate advocacy. And Emily and I met with them today because, well, for one thing, they fund CCL, or maybe CCE. I'm not sure how all that works, but we met with them today, and because they're really committed to furthering carbon pricing, and we're really excited because we're gonna kind of join their network, and because we are kind of doing something special and like creating a big trying to create a big group of students who, as Emily said, a mass marketing campaign among students in favor in support of a carbon fee. So that's really exciting to be joining that network.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. And Stanley?
Yeah, I was gonna explain briefly like what CCE is. So CCE is like Citizens Climate Education. It's like legally it's a distinct entity from CCL, but the reason why it exists is because CCE is like the educational side of it. It's like the non-political side of it. And so it can be registered as a 501c3, which is like a charitable organization. And that allows it to apply for a lot of grants that CCL as like an entity would not be able to. So that's where all the funding comes from basically. And then they use that on CCL's operations.
That's a really good distinction. Thank you for sharing that, Stanley. And those are all the updates from the national level, but also from, oh, Philip, do you want to join? Or happen.
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment that I really want to see happen in the CFD movement. But if you have something else that it's not super important to share, so if you have something important, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say those are all the updates from the national level, and then in creating a space for discussing more of the strategy or updates. If people, I think in future calls we'll have more time to like discuss what's going on locally, but yeah, no, go ahead, Philip.
All right, well, yeah, I'm gonna make this short. I've told Emily this like a bunch of times, but I just want other people to bother her about this too, if you guys are interested. But
Tax me, sorry.
I think that one thing that is very important within the CFD movement and with CCL as a whole is really creating this national mesh between different groups. And I think that one thing that CCL, like the higher ed action team, can do, but also Emily can do, is have like coordinated efforts. Like, all right, this week or like in the next 2 weeks, we're gonna like cover our campus in flyers, or we're all gonna table. And then we can all do this together in a coordinated way. And then we can all like take pictures of it. And then we can, it's a great like marketing thing too, showing like on an Instagram, all of these different groups around the country doing the same exact thing in slightly different ways. Like in Texas, maybe they're wearing like cowboy hats and cowboy boots. And in Florida, they have like flip-flops or whatever. But, you know, to connect everyone. And I think that that's something that would be really powerful, both from connecting people and as a marketing thing. I think even bigger than that, one key thing in CCL as a having a club is creating like your own traditions. So like creating like every last day you can go get ice cream, or like every second week of the semester you like cover your campus in flyers, and it's like a thing that you always do. And I think creating like these traditions are things that can be passed on from years and years are really important for in the long game.
Yeah, I think those are really good ideas, and I think would love to like discuss that more and actually try to implement those.
Agreed. So we have 3 minutes left, technically. The poll results are in, and it is 7 yes, 3 no's. So I think there's still, like, this is a very small subset of the population, so there's still plenty of room for conversation about it. What I also wanted to share with folks is that I have created a feedback form for anybody who would like to just like suggestions like Philip just raised. Like we only get to meet once a month or twice a month with campus leaders who can also come to the strategy call. So if you ever have any feedback, you can fill out this form at any time completely anonymously. You can also always give feedback like on these calls or in the chat. But I just know that some people might feel more comfortable being anonymous. So feel free to fill that out and just let us know what you'd like to see more of or less of from the higher ed action team. Like it can be about calls, it can be about our resources, support, infrastructure, anything like that. So just want to encourage that so that we can really make this better serve all of your needs. And thanks to Philip and Emily for the great suggestion on that. So we have 1 minute left. Sam, I don't know if you have any like parting words of wisdom that you'd like to share, but after Sam speaks, also, I'm happy to stay on the line. We'll just stop the recording and then we can chat about if we want to go into breakout rooms or have a full group conversation about anything else you're dealing with, either with CFD or campus chapters.
I don't have any parting words, but I do have to go at 9, so.
So that's that. Well, thank you again, Sam. Another round of applause for your great work. Thank you for everything you did, obviously, as an intern in the senator's office, and also for sharing that wisdom with us. It was really insightful. All right, so we will see you all next month. There's no campus leader strategy call this month based on popular vote. So we'll see you at the beginning of December, first Monday of December at 8 p.m. Eastern.